Beth, I don't even have to think.
Okay, great. All right, and if you think of any questions for Heather during the remainder of our presentation, again, put them in the chat. We hope to have an opportunity for some further questions toward the end of our Tuesday talk tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura. Welcome, Laura, and Laura is going to speak to us about Interact.
On mute, of course. Thank you so much. I'm just going to pull up my deck to show you. So appreciate the opportunity to talk about Interact always. Some of this is going to be pretty basic information for some of you, but I wanted to give a good overview of what Interact is, just to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about. So if I can get this thing to move. Oh, there we go. So Interact is really for youth 12 to 18. We don't usually get kids that are, I always have to stop calling them kids. We usually don't get youth that are sort of in that public school age. Usually we get grade 10 to grade 12. We get people who sort of find out about us that it's a good idea to become an interactor for a number of reasons, including resume building for university and leadership and community service. But we also just get the kids who want to come in and get their 40 hours of community service, and they hear that there's a place to be able to do that. We have great success with those kids. Right? They come in, they want to get their 40 hours, but once they get engaged and they get engaged with these kids that are motivated and have leadership skills, they usually stay longer than they intended. So as I said, they do community service, they do leadership, project management and team skills is part of what they learn while they're in there. Resume building for both, for getting jobs. We often do references for them for jobs, but it's also resume building for university, right? If you have to write an exam about something around leadership, especially if you're going into a really competitive program, this really helps to be able to talk about things that you've done. And then friendship and connections for people. So they, you know, whether they think they need to make friends or not, these new connections at this level of people that have the same interest is really great for them. So that's some of the stuff we do. Globally for Interact is, there's a couple of activities that they can get involved in. So World Interact Week, the Interact Video Awards, we've had a number of clubs within 77 who have been involved in the Interact Video Awards and gotten really close to sort of winning that, that piece. That's a really interesting one for the interactors now, because it's a video thing and it's sort of that social media type based activity that they seem to really like that. There's the Rotary Day at United Nations in February. That's something that's open to people to attend. And then of course there's Global Youth Service Day, which is in the spring. And that's different clubs who can do things to participate in that service day. So globally, we have almost 15,000 Interact clubs, almost 350 interactors, and in 145 countries. So looking at 70-70. So how many clubs do we have in 70-70? This is something we don't know at this point. We have, through COVID, lost a lot of our clubs, or they've had to pause. A lot of them are school-based. So having the schools closed, they haven't been able to continue. We've had a number of advisors who tried to sort of keep those clubs going, even though the schools were closed down, but it was really difficult to get past the rules around the school. So that's going to be a focus for us now, is to get those clubs re-engaged and re-established and revived. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. It's a year and a half is a long time to lose those kids, especially when you're talking about grade 10s to grade 12s, to try and get them to come back and be the same club. So it may be a whole new reviving of it. And then growing, right? So we'd like to grow more clubs. We sort of range between 15 and 18 clubs at any given time. It would be nice to have more clubs across the board in a lot of other geographic areas within the district. And then connecting is a big focus for us now, connecting those different clubs and connecting the interactors. I'm just going to go to the next, just realized as I was talking, this probably works in better. Back in October 2020, I started a club called the President's Club, or a group. And this was getting all of the Interact presidents together finding a forum for them to have a conversation in so they can support each other, so they can help each other, so they have somebody that's in that same role as them to talk to. It supports new clubs. We had within COVID a brand new club start, which is absolutely amazing. And their president joined the President's Club and got all the support of the presidents who are already working. It's a great idea to share ideas and experiences. Not sure what happened there on my spelling, and to look for opportunities and partnerships. So in the last year, that club had met, or that group had met every other week, every 2 weeks, to talk about anything that was going on with their clubs. They're really motivated. They did a presentation to this group, or to the Tuesday Talks, back in, I think it was February or March when we did that. A really great group. So the focus this year is going to be on making sure that we get those clubs revived and grow those clubs, get this President's Club to be really, really strong so that they have that connection. And then the other piece is the alumni group. So a couple of years ago in Newmarket, I held an alumni night. We did it in May. So all the kids were home from university and college, so they were all around, and it was a way to keep them engaged, even though they were alumni, for Interact, with the hope that if we keep them engaged and keep them sort of connected to us, that they will then eventually become Rotary members. So that's something that we're going to focus on and try to spread through the district to try and keep those people engaged. And as Rotaract sort of builds and becomes more of a main area of Rotary, I think there'll be more attraction for them to go there. Over the years, we've sort of said, it'd be nice if you stayed in Rotaract, but sort of have to find a university that has a club, and it was difficult to get them to keep them engaged. But I think as we go forward, as Rotaract becomes more and more, it'll be easier to do that. So this is sort of repeating some of the things I've said. So the community hours is what brings a lot of them in. The resume building is really important. I always talk to the interactors around, make sure you have a role in Interact, so you have something that you can put on your resume. Make sure that you're getting some leadership experience, that you're doing some project management experience, and that you're learning how to be part of a team, whether you're leading the team or whether you're within the team and you're learning sort of how to be part of a team or even lead underneath another leader. So they're always focusing on those types of skills, getting those types of skills. The experience in leadership is great. A lot of them, when I see them come in sort of that grade 9, 10 area, and then when they leave after the end of grade 12, it's a huge difference in their confidence, in their ability to relate to people. There's the community experience piece is incredible. Some of these kids have never been in a shelter or never talked to anybody who was in need or never been to a food bank. And they get that exposure through all the projects that we do. So they get comfortable and realize that it's not so hard to talk to people who they're not otherwise familiar with. So that growth is incredible. Tina Davison, she was planning to be here with me tonight. She's one of my alumni from Newmarket. She's now in her 4th year of university. She is now coming back to Rotary. And I was hoping, she had a migraine today, so she wasn't able to join us, but I was hoping she'd be able to talk to you a bit about her path. So she's been away from Interact for about 3 years. Went to the alumni night a couple of years ago. We didn't have one last year because of COVID, but now has come back to Rotary because she's interested in maintaining that. So it's finding people like that and figuring out what that path is to keep them engaged, which is really what we need to do to make sure that they're then moving on to the next group of Rotary real focus on trying to get those clubs re-engaged. So if you have a club that was school-based or even community-based that hasn't been able to meet over the last year and a half, connect with us. I'll connect their president with our president's group. We'll provide any support you need to get that club going. So there's lots of support out there to help you do that, even just to chat through the difficulties with the schools and trying to get that reestablished. If you're interested in starting a club, I can help you with that. I can get you all the information you need and help you with the process, and even come out and help you, sort of talk to people. If you're going to find 2 or 3 kids who are really interested in go-getters, you can get a club going. The Aurora Club had 1 person left after I guess it was 2 years ago, all the rest of them graduated from grade 12. And I had this one little grade 10 kid, and he grew that club to 30 now in their school in Aurora. So you just have to sort of find those kids and help them and foster them. And we can help that. And that President's Club is so valuable now for helping people like that, to talk to them around what it takes to run a club or be in a club, or what's interesting about that. And if you do have an active club and you're not in the President's Club, let me know. I'll get them hooked up with that group. I think that's going to be a really powerful group. If we can get all of the Interact clubs in the district in that President's Club, I think we could do some really cool stuff around making Interact really strong within the district, and really giving it a good voice, and maybe doing some stuff that's really interesting and significant within the district. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Laura, I do see a couple of questions here.
Great.
Trevor Hagerman out in Sterling, they have an early act club, but his question is, we've tried to get our feeder high school to participate with no success. Any suggestions on getting buy-in from a high school?
Yeah, the high school thing is really difficult, right? I think the trick is finding the right teacher, right? You need to find that one teacher who's willing to put in the effort, and who'll stay around for more than a year and be engaged, right? So it's really doing some check-ins, talking to other parents. They usually know who the great teachers are and the ones that go above and beyond, usually the coaches or somebody like that, or the band person who does stuff like that. But that's really the first. It's getting to the teachers rather than going to the offices, right? As soon as you go into the office of the school, then you're hitting all kinds of red tape and resistance. But if you can get, if you can find a teacher and we can bring her to the President's Club or something like that, and we can get them sort of engaged in a conversation, that might be enough to get them engaged to be able to do that. The school-based clubs, it takes time at school, right? They're usually meeting infrequently before school, but it's usually at lunchtime or right after school. So you're asking for a commitment from those teachers. And then if you get a good advisor within the club who's willing to do a lot of the heavy lifting for that school advisor, that'll help a whole lot too, right? So they don't feel like they're running the whole club by themselves within the school. Makes a huge difference.
I was going to mention, I think it's really important too, Laura, to have a good club member who's a liaison between the Rotary Club and the Interact Club with the teacher, like the two adults. That's really, I think, is one of the keys to success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Laura, there's another question from Fareed Siddiqui, and the question is around the obligations for interactors to actually hold and retain a membership.
Yeah, so it varies from club to club, depending on what they're doing. Some clubs charge, a $10 membership, some waive. In Newmarket and Aurora, we waive it. So we have other ways to fundraise. We have sponsorships and stuff like that help with sort of some money to start them off with. And then we get them into fundraising around that. So there's ways of doing it.
District Governor Ron asked the question about promoting Y2Y exchange to our Interact clubs. For those who may not be familiar, Y2Y is an initiative championed by John Curry and HIP, where we're bringing Indigenous and non-Indigenous student age kids together. So the question is, are we promoting that to our Interact clubs?
Yeah, absolutely promoting it. We were promoting it heavily when we were talking about the in-person that was supposed to be on Thanksgiving weekend, that was then changed to a online thing. I think the challenge with this right now is they're just back to school. When we started talking about it in sort of late spring, early summer, there was so much unknown that we were having trouble getting commitment from the kids. I think maybe now would be a good time to sort of send that out again with that information and see if we can get some pickup. But it's just the kids we had a meeting with the Aurora group last week, and the kids, these guys are in an IB school. These guys are incredibly intelligent and motivated and superstars. And even for them, I could see the holdback compared to last year around, I'm not sure. So that's something we're going to have to deal with in the next little while for sure.
Yeah. Question from Jane Botsford. Now, the Toronto West Rotary Club sponsors 2 Interact clubs, and I know Patty Wright was significantly involved in that relationship. And I imagine your answer is going to be the same to this question as well. are there any specific district sponsored events for Interact this year?
Yeah, we're not sure yet. So yeah, we're trying to figure it out. I'm trying to get my clubs to do something for polio. We did 2 years ago, we did a polio in school campaign. So if they're in school, we might be able to do that. The schools in our area set up an information table, put up some posters, and then painted pinkies, which is probably doable within the schools if they're still in school. But yeah, anything more than that. And then the other thing we're talking about doing is flag raising, where we can do it. So getting some Rotary flags up and some where we have polio flags, getting them up. But I'm not sure how much more we can do. My club in Aurora, the IB guys, they're gung ho. They've got about 5 or 6 activities that they're starting to talk about that they're doing and setting up teams. So we'll see.
Very good. Question was asked about your email address. On the screen there, you see Laura's email address, laura@summitmediationgroup.ca.
I need a Rotary email.
And your club runner Rotary.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah,
exactly. Cindy Jacobs made a comment. She ran Interact Club. She's at high school, I guess in Uxbridge. She approached guidance first, and they knew who the kids, the kids that who would be interested in such a club. So.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
John asked a question, John Barrett from Scarborough, where is the center to deregister a club? And that opens up a whole kettle of worms. You can respond to that one, Laura.
Yeah, you sort of, if you don't have an active advisor, every once in a while, RI goes through and wipes out all the inactive clubs. So I pull off a report of all the different clubs. So if you're going to inactivate your club, first I'll try and talk you out of not doing that, and then we can help you with that. So.
Okay, Mark, thank you. I think we're going to move on to Rotaract if that's good.
Thank
Good for you. Thank you, Laura, very much. And I'm sure that you've piqued some people's interest and you're going to get some emails.
Excellent.
And
Okay,
Laura,
Shauna and Stacy, over to you for
Laura, if
Rotaract.
you could stop sharing your screen.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out to Tuesday Talks, everyone. Good to see everyone. I'm going to pass it over to Stacy to introduce herself first, and then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy, and I'm the District Rotaract representative for District 7070. I am also a member of the Rotaract Club of Toronto, and many years ago, I was also an interactor who did move on to Rotaract after high school. And I'm happy to be here to talk to you about Rotaract.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stacy. And I'm Shauna Moore. I'm the District Rotaract Chair, and I am a proud member of the Rotary Club of Whitby. So, Stacy.
Okay, so many of you probably know what Rotaract is, but if you haven't had much interaction with Rotaract, you might not be as familiar with what it is. So Rotaract, when it was founded, is actually stands for Rotary in Action. So Rotaract is for young leaders in our community who get together to develop leadership skills, professional skills, and fun through service. And the unique thing about Rotaract for a lot of young people is that it provides both local and international opportunities in the same way that Rotary does. And Rotary and Rotaractors work together side by side in the community to make a difference in the world. So who are Rotaractors? Next slide, please. Yeah, so Rotaractors are students, young professionals, and leaders in the community who are working together. So Rotaract clubs can be either community-based or university-based. And in 2019, Rotaract was elevated to membership status in Rotary International. Prior to that, Rotaract was a partner of Rotary. And part of this mandate is that the upper age limit for Rotaract was removed, and it is now up to individual clubs to decide what their upper age limit is. This is really helpful in helping Rotaractors transition to Rotary, as it allows Rotaractors to leave when they feel like they're ready to move on to Rotary, or when they're financially able to. As before, when you had to leave when you were 30, I think a lot of Rotaractors got lost and didn't move on to Rotary. And as Rotaractors are the future of Rotary, we think this is very important. So we're also gonna look at Rotaract specifically in District 7070. Okay, so in District 7070, we officially have 9 clubs, but the Loyalist Belleville Club and Richmond Hill, we are still trying to get contact with them. I believe that COVID may have affected their activity. So we have the GTA Connect, Loyalist Belleville, Richmond Hill, the Rotaract Club of Toronto and Toronto Danforth, the University of Toronto, the UTSC, Willowdale, and York University Rotaract. So all the Rotaract clubs in our district are actually sponsored by Rotary clubs in our district as well. And we work together with Rotarians to put on events and in partnership to work together. One interesting thing as well about the elevation of Rotaract is that a Rotaract club doesn't necessarily have to have a sponsor club anymore. And Rotaract clubs are actually able to sponsor another Rotaract club. So that will be something interesting to watch going forward. And if we just go to the next slide, we're going to show you some of the activities our Rotaractors get up to. So Rotaractors in our district volunteer in our community in events such as food banks. We have general meetings, we have socials together, such as the Rotaract Club of Toronto Danforth had the hijabis and helmet biking event, and they also met with the district governor. We also have professional development opportunities like the GTA Connect Club's Young Professionals Guide to Law. And as a district, we typically have a district conference every year. And we also try to have service events for the whole district. And one of our goals as the district this year is to have a joint service event together with all the clubs in the district. And also just now that things are opening up, hopefully we will be able to meet in person and meet all the great Rotaractors and see the great work they're doing in our community. Next slide, I'll hand it over to Shauna.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. So supporting Rotaract. I'm actually going to, sort of open it up here for maybe people might have questions about how they might want to support Rotaract. But some of the things that Rotaractors are looking for are mentorship, support, participating in events, joining events. If your club could advertise some of those events and support them in any way with people power, with financial support. Does anybody have any questions around supporting Rotaract here? I thought I'd open it up. We've given a lot of information so far. So Mark, I think you're monitoring because I can't see the chat.
Yeah, so right now there's no questions, but I'm sure there's
Okay.
a million questions out there.
All right, okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no, I just, so why don't you talk about, I know there's a couple, you have a couple thoughts about community-based clubs. And I know in particular, you're looking to start up a Durham community-based club at some point in time. Talk about the difference between a university college-based club and a community-based club and why it could be of value to start looking at community-based clubs as well.
Okay, thank you. So last year we attempted to get a Durham region sort of focused Rotaract group started. However, anytime we planned an event, we had a lockdown, as you know. So there are community-based groups, as Mark has mentioned, and university/college-based groups. And the benefits of having community-based groups are you don't have to worry about the high rate of turnover. There used to be a group that was, at Durham College and Ontario Tech University, but the turnover was very quick as students were going through their programs. So a community-based group, you know, you can have continuous membership joining, and as people roll out of it and perhaps join Rotary clubs, there can be a continuous intake and not worrying about students graduating, losing track of them, and losing contact with them. So there are many benefits from the community-based groups, much more so than the post-secondary groups. So I think there's a question, maybe I see a chat. I'm not seeing the full chat, Mark. Can you help?
Yeah,
me
so
there?
the questions starting to come in now. And obviously there a lot of the questions are relating to as Rotaractors become, obviously they've been elevated in their status. And next year, there's a lot of changes that are going to be happening with Rotaract as their relationship with Rotary. So the one question from Fareed, which I'm sure we'll get a lot, is as upper age limits for Rotaractors no longer exist, why should young Rotaractors be willing to join Rotary and pay dues?
Okay, good question. So I'm going to I will come back to that question. And as you know, Rotaract is changing. So as of June 1st, as Stacy has mentioned of this year, Rotaract clubs are no longer required to have a sponsoring club. As of July 2022, Rotaractors will have full membership, will be seen as full Rotary members. They'll have a category. And again, they can sponsor a club. They can start a club without another club sponsoring them, and there will be fees. So currently we are working with our district leadership team to get a roster for who our Rotaractors are and figuring out what the best way is to get them on Club Runner so that we can keep track of them and be in contact with them. And we're working out what dues will look like. So to sort of get back to your question, yes, Rotaractors will no longer be required to leave when they hit that magical age of 31. And that question has been raised, is why would I move over to Rotary from Rotaract? So the question, it's a big question, and Stacy, I'm going to invite you to answer this as well. But I think one of the things that I keep hearing is joining a Rotary club is that sort of next stage in going that much further in terms of leadership. And why should they join a Rotary club? I think of the opportunities that might be there that are slightly different from some of the Rotaract clubs, a bigger opportunity to serve in the community in a different way, to perhaps join fellowship with some of the people who have mentored them, and to be part of that larger fellowship. So Stacy, did you want to add some thoughts around that question? I have lots of thoughts, but we have limited time.
Yeah, mostly I agree with Shauna. It is a next step for many Rotaractors. I feel when you've been in Rotaract for a long time, if you were to stay for too long, maybe you might become a little out of touch with the younger members. And additionally, while the upper age limit is removed, each club can determine their own limit. So you might find that you join a club that's raised the limit to maybe 37 or as a random number. So you would have to leave eventually, depending on which club you are. And I feel like what stops a lot of Rotaractors from transitioning to Rotary is the fees. And as we become more financially stable, more Rotaractors may be willing to transition to Rotary. So I just think that removing the upper age limit is just a really good way of keeping people in touch with Rotary and not losing them at 30.
Yeah, just add that the Toronto Rotaract Club has in their bylaws, the upper age limit of 30, which they put into place last year. Just another question around what's the process to register a Rotaract Club? And then once the register, how do you add new members, etc.?
So in order to register a new Rotaract club, I would suggest that you reach out to me, and I'm going to put my email in chat afterwards, after I'm done presenting, and we can have that conversation, and then getting them listed on Club Runner, again, working with our district secretary and some of those other folks to at least get the president registered so they can be in touch with, they can receive information and have access to all of the training updates and all of the good things on Club Runner. So please reach out to me. Thank you.
There is a form to fill out. The club has to sign off
Yes.
as well as the district before you submit it to RI to get a formal recognition of a Rotaract club. Question from Angela Brown. Who's the president of the U of T Scarborough Rotaract Club?
I believe it is Eliza, but I would have to double check that.
It is Elisa, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So if
there-
anybody, I'm going to put.
I think Ron had one final question. Ron,
Okay.
you mentioned you have a question?
Thanks,
Did you go?
Mark. The one question I had to our Rotarians and our Rotaractors is one of the initiatives with the district governor's visit is that they are joint or cluster meetings with the idea that you get to meet other Rotarians and get other ideas, other contacts out there. Now, so far, as you saw in Stacy's presentation, the Toronto Danforth Club included the Toronto Danforth Rotaract and Toronto Danforth Interact Club in our joint meeting. And I do have the Toronto Rotaract Club on September 21st in a joint meeting with a number of the Toronto clubs, but I have not heard yet from all of the other Rotaract clubs. And it's not necessarily an issue with the Rotaract clubs because maybe they don't know, but I really am counting on our Rotary clubs to make sure they're inviting the Rotaract clubs to be part of that joint meeting for the district governor's visit, the idea being to facilitate that collaboration, that relationship building that we need to have at a higher level between Rotaract and Rotary, and we need to listen to our Rotaractors.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, so let's move on to the last segment. And I will share my screen, Deb.
Yeah, Shauna, there you go. Now you should be able to do that.
Okay, you think so? Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking about Rotary Youth Exchange for the next 15 minutes. So as many of you would know, during my visits as district governor, I spoke passionately about my involvement in the Youth Exchange program. And long before I became a Rotarian, my husband and I, Barry, also a Rotarian, were involved in the program as club counselors. So between 1993 and 2009, we were counselors to 5 students, one from each of Mexico, France, Australia, Japan, and Denmark. And to this day, we still have a very long-lasting relationship with 2 of our students, who we affectionately refer to as our Mexican and our Danish daughters. Actually, and our Danish daughters coming home for Thanksgiving, so that'll be lovely. But let's just talk a minute about the involvement of our district in Youth Exchange. So District 7070's involvement in Rotary Youth Exchange actually dates back to the early 1970s. And since 2001, the district has exchanged with 21 different countries and supported approximately 470 inbound and outbound students that have been impacted by this program. So Rotary International has identified these 6 objectives for the program. It's a worldwide program. It involves more than 80 countries with some 8,000 students participating each year. This is obviously pre-COVID, but we're giving you sort of a synopsis of the program, and then we're going to tell you how we're going to move forward in the district this fall. So the program actually has 2 components to it. There's the outbound component and the inbound component. So the district youth exchange committee is working hard right now to work with clubs to help them identify a youth exchange officer and a youth exchange counselor so that we can begin the promotion and selection of an outbound student who will go to one of our partner countries beginning next August for the 22-23 school year. So it's open to students who are 16 to 18 years of age. They have to attend school this town. And the successful student, outbound student, is sponsored by a local Rotary club, and they will complete an application and an in-person interview. So with an exchange, you have an outbound student and you have an inbound student. So again, working with our partner countries, we'll be looking to host an inbound student next year for the 22-23 academic school year. So we'll be looking for clubs to recruit host families, and we do a great number of different activities to orient the student and the host parents and the youth exchange counselor and the youth exchange officer to district events. And so it's all a very exciting program. So we're hoping that we can get up and running this fall. We've reached out to local school boards. We're just waiting to hear from their commitment. We have 2 members of our committee who are our country coordinators, and we're starting to hear back from some of the countries that yes, they want to partner with us again, and they too are looking to reinstate the program now that we have the green light from Rotary International. So there are lots of advantages for students participating in the Rotary Youth Exchange program. Certainly, they develop a cultural understanding, whether they're outbound or inbound. We know that one of Rotary International's objectives is that we do, foster the growth of global citizens, that this program provides them with a broader view of the world, gives them an opportunity to grow, and they develop a tolerance of understanding of others. We would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about some of the challenges that happens for our outbound students. It's a non-credit school year. They don't get any credits, although they must attend school full-time, and attending one school, whether they're inbound or outbound, is a priority. Some clubs have said in the past that getting host families can be a challenge. To make a commitment this fall, we're saying to clubs, you need to have 2 host families identified. Ideally, you're looking for 3 to 4 families. If you have 4, then each family would have the student for approximately 11 weeks. The inbound student would arrive mid-August and usually departs June, July, depending on whether or not there is an Eastern Canada trip and they choose to be involved. As I said, we're in the process now of gaining support from school boards and then schools, and confirming our country partners so that we can start to make some pretty concrete decisions. We have a number of members, 3 on our district committee, who are Rotex members, and they are helping us with developing promotional materials that we'll use in the school and through social media to pique high school students' interest in becoming involved in the program, and hopefully, with enough interest, consider putting their name forward to be considered to be our outbound students. So there was a club runner invite that went to all the current club presidents, indicating that, we are reinstating the program. We're looking for you to get involved. And how do you do that? I mean, start by saying, yes, we want to get involved. Appoint a youth exchange officer, a youth exchange counselor. Plan to have this outbound student recruited by the end of November. Identify 2 host families who can host the inbound students, and establish a budget. So the budget is to deal with hosting a student and actually help with the outbound and the inbound. So with the outbound student, helping to support the district in providing orientations. Each of the students is provided with a jacket, and some of you who've been involved with Youth Exchange in the past know that they collect pins. I don't know how they get through the security system at the airport. Ding, 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 must go off. And then when you have the student come, your inbound student, they as well must attend some orientations. They have some compulsory district events that they attend, and there is a monthly allowance that we provide to each of the students at the club level to support some incidental expenses that they might have. So I have a number of my district committee colleagues on the session tonight. So Mark, I don't know what kind of questions you're seeing in the chat, but maybe we can.
Just the first one on a clarification of terms. So for you to ask the question, is Youth Exchange and GSC the same thing or different?
No, Youth Exchange and GSC are very different. So I think he was talking about the group study exchange. Those are for Rotarians who are going to other countries. More often than not, they have a theme-based topic. I know Rotary International Vice President Valerie Wafer, when she was on our district, I believe she went to Australia with a group of Rotarians, and I know that their focus was mental health. So the GSC Fareed is really focused on Rotarians. The Rotary Youth Exchange is focused on those students who are in their 16 to 18 years of age in kind of grade 10, 11 in high school.
Yeah, it's now called VTT. And
I was just going to say the new name is vocational training VTT. Yep.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions related to Youth Exchange? The fact that we're kicking this off in the fall is exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited, and certainly we've got about maybe 12 members on our committee. We all have different responsibilities, whether it's a committee secretary, treasurer, country coordinators. We use a database system called YAY, which is Youth Exchange Administrative Hub, where we have applications and all the information about outbound student, inbound students, host families. We have somebody who's acting as our administrator on that. As I mentioned earlier, we have some Rotex members who are being very instrumental in helping us develop promotional materials that we can use in the high schools and on social media to garner some interest from high school students who say, gee, I wonder what Youth Exchange is, or maybe they've already heard about it. But we're going to have some training in early October for the Youth Exchange officers and counselors. And then we plan to have an information night the end of October for students and their parents, for students who might be interested in going through the selection process to be one of our outbound students next August. How's that? Any other questions, Mark?
I don't see any, but I'm sure there are.
So are there any general questions then just about youth services? You want me to stop screen sharing, Deb? Okay. So we covered a lot of territory in a short period of time. We've got a few minutes left if people want to ask some general questions about any of the youth services portfolios that we presented tonight.
Beth, I see Martha Casson has a question. Martha, good evening.
Unmute, Martha.
Unmute. Thank you all very much. This is a first for me. But what I was wondering was whether or not all of these slides might be shared to all of us who are participating this evening, because there is one hell of a lot of information here. And I would really like to go over those. I am in Port Perry and I am brand new. And so I would really like to have a bit of a better handle on everything that I've heard, to talk to our youth coordinator in the next few days, because I have, blindly volunteered to help. So that's my question. Can these slides be shared?
I don't have any difficulty. Let me talk to Deb afterwards to find the best way to do that, Martha. Okay, but
Okay.
certainly, I think if you are new and want to make an informed pitch to members in your club, getting involved in any one of these 4 youth services programs, it does help to have some backup material.
Absolutely.
First of all, to inform and educate you, but then for you to, in turn, help members of your club become more familiar with each of the different components in youth services.
Just a
Thank you.
question, just a
Thank you
question,
very
Beth,
much.
or-
That's very helpful.
Beth
Okay,
or Deb,
thank
has Port Perry had a youth exchange student in the past?
You know what? I'm so new, I don't even know that.
Yes, Port Perry is a very strong youth exchange club.
Yay.
So
Yep.
Martha,
Okay.
you're in good hands.
Thank you
Yep.
very much. And I must say that I am, I'm interested in this after many years of, from retirement, when I was involved with a Rotarian in Welland, Ontario.
My hometown.
And when I was involved with Niagara College, because we had a wonderful project to develop who knows what this even means, a dry rainforest park in Ecuador. And Jos Nole, who is a Paul Harris Fellow, came to me and said, I think that our local Rotary should be involved because Ecuador's local Rotary is involved. And didn't we end up having Rotarians from Welland get on a plane with picks and shovels and enthusiasm and go down and be part of a wonderful exchange program with young people, with Rotarians from Welland and Rotarians from Ecuador. And so that was my very first introduction. I'm grateful for that.
Great. So Mark, I see that Shauna and Norma have their hands up.
Okay.
Shauna, go ahead.
Okay, so Mark, I'm wondering, I've had a couple of questions about RYLA. Are you able to just, I know we're in development, are you able to just comment a little bit on that? Thank you.
Oh, put me on the spot, Shauna. Thank you.
I know. Sorry, Mark.
So RYLA is the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. It's kind of an odd title, but it really is a, traditionally it's getting Rotarian and non-Rotarian students or teenagers or young adults between the ages of 18 and 25, I believe it is, get together for sometimes 3 days, sometimes a week, a conference, a lot of inspiring speakers, a lot of coaching, mentoring sessions. We did not have the RYLA session last year, obviously due to COVID. The last one was, I think 3 years ago, and we hooked it up with the Rotaract conference as well. So we're starting to think about how do we define RYLA going forward? Are we going to have another RYLA session in the springtime when traditionally that's when we hold it? So we're putting our thinking caps together with all the members of the youth services program to figure out what we are going to be doing with RYLA going forward. But any decisions on that will probably be made in the next couple months. Norma, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, I have to go in like 1 minute. I'm in my son's swim class. Sorry, I was late. I think I'm going to reach out to Shauna about my next steps, because I'm basically in the same boat as Martha, that I need a little bit more information. And also I'm very interested. One of the reasons why I joined Rotary is because I'm interested in becoming a host family and also, to send out my kid. So yeah, I would like to be part of, the committee as a host family as well.
Norma, which town are you from, Norma?
Whitby.
Oh, Whitby, okay. We're gonna get your name and address for sure, because when we hear host family volunteers, that's fantastic.
Yeah, most likely, obviously not this year, but maybe the next year.
That's key. That's key to our program.
Yeah. Shauna, do you know Norma?
I do. Yes, I do. So
In your
Norma,
club?
I will reach out. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mark, I'm just going to get you to just say thank you to our presenters.
Yeah.
You don't have to thank me, but the other ones.
Well,
And then
I am going to
then
thank
wanna-
you. I am going to thank you. So don't you
Then I
worry.
want to take a minute and just introduce our topic for next month.
Yeah, well, it was a fantastic presentation today, and you can tell that our district has a long history of working with youth, from providing scholarships, encouraging youth leadership, and student exchange programs, to sponsoring and supporting Rotaract, Interact, and Early Act clubs. And I always say it's really part of our cultural fabric in District 7070. So thank you to all the presenters today, Shauna, Stacy, Laura, Heather, and Beth. And of course, our district treasurer, Deb Murray, for helping to coordinate this session today. And thanks for shedding light on the youth services program and vision within District 7070. And I tell you, as we get out of COVID, I'm really excited to see what the program will bring to our district going forward. So thank you very much, all of you.
Well, thank you, Mark, for that. So folks, just before we wrap up and you rush off, I want to introduce the October Tuesday talks. It's on WASH, Rotary, and WASH Rag. And it's going to be presented by our own past district governor, Ron Denham, from the Rotary Club of Toronto, Eglinton. And so he sent me a brief little introduction, so bear with me. Despite billions of dollars spent on water and sanitation and hundreds of millions of hours building toilets, drilling boreholes, and digging wells, the world is still little better off than in the year 2000, when the nations of the world committed to reducing by half the proportion of people without access to safe water and sanitation. The numbers are striking. About 1 billion people lack access to safe water. Polluted streams, bacteria-laden ponds, unclean containers, broken pipes are the reality in too many countries. And over 2 billion lack access to safe sanitation. Open defecation, broken toilets, no privacy for girls. This is the lot for 1/3 of the world's population. The consequences are critical. 80,000 people, mostly children, die every day from unsafe water. Billions of hours lost to sickness and disease. Women and children spend up to 6 hours a day hauling water. Girls miss classes, drop out of school. Even worse, they suffer from assault, violence, and even abduction. Fortunately, Rotarians are doing something about it, digging wells, digging boreholes, supplying filters, building latrines, installing hand washing facilities. But much of our efforts is in vain. Our projects are not sustainable. Water systems no longer function. Toilets are vandalized. So this is going to be the first of a series of 3 that we are going to learn from Ron what we can do to solve this problem. So learn how Rotarians can change this dynamic, how we can ensure a sustainable, effective water or sanitation system that serves the community forever, and understand how WASH, the Rotary Action Group, can support that transformation. So as I said, this is the first of a series of 3. So I won't steal all of Ron's thunder, but that's the introduction that he provided for me for when we get together in a month's time. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I hope we gave you a nice overview of youth services in District 7070, and please register soon, and register no later than the night before or the day before our next session to ensure that you get the Zoom link in a timely fashion. Thank you.